When Rome claimed Egypt, it wasn't just land, it was legacy, gods, and fire. Welcome to History Pulse, where we bring you new historical tales each week. Subscribe now for untold historical stories from across the ages. In the golden age of ancient Egypt, the pharaohs watched their empire fade. The once mighty kingdom reduced to a shadow of its former self under the oppressive gaze of Rome. The year is 30 BC. Cleopatra, the last active pharaoh of the Ptolemaic kingdom, is dead, having rather famously misplaced her trust in a Roman suitor. And so, without any surviving heirs, Egypt becomes the property of Octavian, the future Emperor Augustus, and Rome's first citizen. What follows is an uneasy peace as the Egyptian people chafe under the rule of their new masters, while Rome garners great wealth from their most valuable province. But rebellion festers. Soon, a charismatic general by the name of Arius will lead his nation to arms in a desperate bid for independence. But wait, before we jump into our tale, why not take a moment to learn more about the world that these men will soon fight to preserve? This is the world in the era of the Roman Egyptians. Stretching across the Mediterranean, the Roman territories are a patchwork quilt of cultures bound together by conquest and trade. In the east, Roman legions have pushed deep into Mesopotamia. To the south, their influence stretches down the Arabian Peninsula. To the west, their newest province, Egypt, sits astride the richest trade route in the world. This is the Nile Delta, the lifeblood of Egypt, and gateway to the eastern Mediterranean. Here at the northern tip lies the great city of Alexandria, founded by Alexander the Great and home to the greatest library in the known world. For centuries, it has been the capital of the pharaohs and seat of the Egyptian government. Yet here, too, resides the greatest city of Rome, its grand library second only to that of Athens. In fact, all of the major cities along the Nile are shared between Greek and Egyptian rulers, from the great temple city of Karnak and the royal necropolis of Thebes to the rich port city of Berenice on the Red Sea. There too is the kingdom of Axum. Along the Indian Ocean coast, another key ally of Rome, bound together by economics and convenience. Together they form a vast web of cultural exchange stretching from Spain to India. It is a Mediterranean world and Egypt is its jewel. Yet as we saw at the start of our story, all is not well. Despite the best efforts of their pharaohs, the people of Egypt resent the heavy taxes levied upon them by their Greek masters. The situation has only worsened since the death of Cleopatra, who at least tried to maintain a balance between Roman and native Egyptian interests. But Augustus has other ideas. With no serious opposition in the land, he begins to treat Egypt as nothing more than another Roman province, appointing his own governors and senators to key positions and forcing wealthy Egyptians to fund military campaigns across the Mediterranean. Meanwhile, Roman troops are stationed in every major city to keep the peace, while thousands more march across the deserts of the east under the command of Gaius Cassius Longinus, a veteran general with eyes on the governorship of Syria. But for now, there is little resistance, or so the Romans believe. For in secret, a rebellion festers. It starts as most insurrections do, in the low murmurings of merchants, farmers, and laborers tired of paying tribute to Rome. Then, it gathers pace as local leaders, warlords, and priests begin to organize. Finally, it explodes into open revolt as a charismatic leader named Arius unites the Egyptian people under the banner of Cleopatra VII, raising a rebel army in the eastern desert. His objective is simple: drive the Romans out of Egypt and restore the old ways. But let us step back. A few miles north of the city of Berenice, Roman legionaries trudge through the scorching desert heat. They are veterans of the civil wars, which brought Augustus to power, men hardened by years of campaigning. Now on rest and relaxation, they expect little more than endless sand and bored looks from the natives. But their commander, Gaius Cassius Longinus, has other ideas. He believes Egypt is ripe for the taking, and so he sends scouting parties ahead to assess the situation. Meanwhile, his men grow ever more restless, and to lift their spirits, he allows them to hold small competitions, sword drills and mock charges, to remind themselves of the skills that made them some of the deadliest men alive. As days pass, the scouts return with troubling news. Bands of Egyptian irregulars have begun harassing travelers along the trade routes. If this continues, Rome will lose one of its most valuable provinces. So Cassius prepares for war. As evening falls, his men build campfires and settle in for the night. But even here, they cannot escape the stifling heat. Yet sleep comes easy to some, while others toss and turn, dreaming of cooler climates. It is almost too much to bear. Then suddenly, the tranquility of the desert is shattered as war cries split the night. From the dunes beyond, riders appear on the horizon. Their numbers seem to swell with every passing moment, growing ever larger until they fill the plain like a tidal wave. At their head rides a tall, muscular warrior with flowing red hair. That is Ares, the rebel leader. Behind him come thousands of Egyptian soldiers and archers. Some ride on horseback, while others charge on foot, brandishing spears, scimitars, and bows. With a wild yell, the horsemen charge. Roman soldiers spring into action, racing to their feet and grabbing their weapons. Longinus sees that his men are outnumbered and disorganized. The cavalry alone could easily outflank his legionaries. So he bellows orders, directing the troops to form ranks and brace for impact. Meanwhile, the Egyptian horse archers rain arrows upon the Romans, searching for weak points in their armor. Cassius sees the threat they pose and orders his men to take cover behind their shields. One by one, the arrows are swallowed by the thick wood, but not without shaking the soldiers' nerves. Cassius knows he must act fast. He draws his sword and rallies his troops. Shouting at the top of his lungs, the soldiers gather behind their eagle standards, preparing to meet the oncoming charge head-on. Suddenly, the ground trembles beneath their feet. A massive war elephant with bloodied tusks leads the Egyptian charge, brandishing a tower shield emblazoned with the double crown of Egypt. But Cassius is ready. He directs 2 cohorts to flank the beast, preventing it from reaching the unprotected baggage train. Even so, the elephant proves a tough opponent, swinging its tusks and crushing anyone who comes too near. Still, the Romans press their attack, driving the elephant back toward its companions. That is when the tide of battle turns. While the Romans face the elephant, the rest of the Egyptians charge forward. Swords flash and shields meet as the 2 armies clash. Longinus and his officers fight furiously to keep their ranks intact. Arrows fly and blood spills as the battle rages. Now is the time for bold tactics. Cassius directs his cavalry to strike the Egyptian flanks, breaking their charge and sending them fleeing back to the safety of the hills. For the moment, the Romans have prevailed, but victory feels fragile. Longinus surveys the field of battle. Dead and dying litter the sand, broken swords and discarded shields, marking the spot where 2 empires clashed. He sheathes his sword, exhausted and contemplative, knowing that this will not be the end. Meanwhile, Arius curses his men's retreat. Though skilled fighters, they lack the discipline and organization of the Roman legions. He knows that open battle is a losing cause, but he also knows that ending the conflict peacefully is impossible. So he withdraws his forces to safer ground, planning for a more favorable engagement. Cassius watches them go, knowing full well that this is only the beginning. As weeks turn into months, skirmishes become commonplace, with the Egyptians striking swift blows whenever possible and the Romans pursuing them relentlessly. It seems as if the fighting will never end. Yet both sides yearn for a decisive victory. It is a question of finding the strength to deliver it. And that strength may come from the most unexpected of places. Perhaps Cassius and Arius will find common ground, or perhaps a third party will intervene, seeking to carve out a piece of the Egyptian pie. Or perhaps the Romans will prevail and Egypt will become Rome's personal province. Whatever the outcome, one thing is clear. The struggle for Egypt is far from over, and though Rome ruled the land, the spirit of Egypt was never conquered. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to show your support, and be sure to stay tuned for more exciting historical tales. Next week, we travel to the heart of Roman Egypt to explore the greatest libraries of Alexandria. Until then, remember, history is always happening.